Welcome, everybody, to the Too High Podcast. I'm Seth Galina alongside my trusty co-host, Deontay Lee. And on today's episode, we have one of our favorite people in the world making his return visit to the Too High Podcast. So I guess this is your first time on the Too High Podcast.
Yes.
We're on the PFF College Football Podcast. And now you're back, Mr. Nate Tice.
I am back. I know I got to play or be on this pod when I was the Houston Oilers, and now I'm on to when you guys moved. Now you're the Tennessee Titans or whatever team that moved, whatever reconfiguration. That's where I'm at now with this team or this podcast. So no, thanks for having me back, and I'm glad that intro went pretty smooth, Seth.
Yeah, one take. Look, we did it in one take, so we're cutting down the time right now. I'm just glad you didn't say
Seth is the most well-rested man on this podcast, and you can hear it in his energy to start the show.
Yeah, I'm just glad you didn't say that we're like the Montreal Expos and now the Washington Nationals. That I would have kicked you off. I would have muted you for the rest of the pod.
That's the joke. I knew there was a joke there, and I was like, oh man, I went Houston Oilers, Tennessee Titans. Like I could have gone Lakers maybe. Like Minneapolis Lakers to LA, something like that. But yeah, or Rick Browns to Ravens. But yeah, no, God, that was the joke right there. Was the Expos joke, wasn't it?
The Expos are coming back though, so don't worry about it. We're getting a half. Well, they're talking about like half the time they're going to play in Tampa, and then half the time they're going to play in Montreal.
Oh, they're at
that. I don't know if that's going to happen.
Love the Blue Jays that you have.
No, are you out of your fucking mind? Like, I'm sorry. This is the most insulting thing anyone's ever said to me is for me to love a Toronto sports team. Okay, let's get to
that's when the Sonics moved. Everyone was like, just cheer for the Blazers. And I was like, absolutely not. It was like, no way am I cheering for a Portland team after I just cheered for the Sonics my whole childhood.
Okay. Well, let's start with football. Let's talk about football. Nate, you are a Wisconsin Badgers fan. You went to Wisconsin. You played at Wisconsin. Wisconsin has a big game coming up. They're playing against Notre Dame. It is the Jack Cohn revenge game. What are your thoughts on from what you kind of saw with Jack Cohn a couple of years ago playing for Wisconsin, and now they've kind of made the decision. They kind of said, "Hey, we like Graham Mertz better." In your opinion, has that worked out the way that they would have liked it to do?
It's kind of like hilarious what a difference those two are, like how different of styles they are too. Like Jack Cohn is like Scotty Tolzien, like a Zoomer version of Scotty Tolzien, where everything plays out how it's going to be. He's great. Like he's going to be accurate. He's going to read the play out properly. Can he create? Not really, but he can if you have a good offense around him, he's going to operate it to the fullest. Like he is like that is what he is. That's why I even for NFL level, I thought he could have a chance as a backup, like he could stick because he's just smart. He works hard. He's big, okay arm, but he's accurate.
Big, he is big. Seeing him in the Notre Dame jersey, I felt like maybe he grew. I mean, he's still a young kid. Maybe he grew, but he's a big kid.
He is. Yeah. He's a big dude. And he's I would say he's a bad athlete, but he's just an okay athlete, if that's being generous. But that's what's so funny is that Wisconsin finally gets a highly rated quarterback recruit, like the highest they've ever had, even more than when Russell was transferring there. And he's a dummy. It's just and I wouldn't say it's a hard offense. It really is, because Coach Chris, rather than for better or for worse, rather than just going, hey, we're going to run these 3 plays, these pass plays, and run them every single week, and we're going to maybe dress up a little bit. He is very game planning and third down's going to be crazy. First and second down's going to have all these tweaks. Red zone's going to have crazy stuff. It's tough. It's really tough on the quarterback unless they're into it and really getting to know all this stuff and working hard and really getting to know this offense. Like you can't create as much out of it just because of how the structure of it is and really the situations you get put in to pass the ball. So it's an offense that's timing. You have to know where the ball is going, because Coach Chris, for better or for worse, again, is going to go. He wants every option to be live on a pass concept because he wants answers to every coverage that you think you can get. That's hard. That's why a lot of those quarterbacks, they have to be 2 years into that system before they really clicks for them. And then now Mertz is getting thrown in, and you can tell that he's not comfortable in a lot of these plays. Like the one against Penn State where he threw the pick at the end of the game, they ran stick nod, and then he misread it because he tried to force it into a stick nod. They had underneath throw coming open. They run it again, and he did the exact same thing. And it's it's probably tough for them, for the coaches, just because that's where headsets are. I get a little spoiled in the NFL world, just with the headsets, you can actually talk to the quarterback and go like, hey, read it out. Make sure you read it out. They're just signaling it in, going like, please do it right. please read this play out right. So I want to retract saying he's a dummy. It's just it's a tough offense mentally, and he's physically gifted. I feel like he is fairly accurate. The arm is just not. I thought he had a little more of a true cannon than he does for such a highly recruited guy. He's got good size. It's just, I think he's just mentally, he has to get there, and I think everything else will fall into place once he does.
You mentioned that talking into the headset at the NFL level. I mean, we're getting off topic already, but what is that process like? And is there a lot of, here's the play call, blah, 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 blah. And then this extra, like, hey, if they roll this way, throw there, or like throw the 9, or look out for this, or look out for the blitz. Is there a lot of that? And I mean, it depends on the OC or what's going on.
All depends on the guy communicating to the quarterback and whether the quarterback likes that or not. I know some quarterbacks that just tell the guy in their headset, shut the F up and don't say a word. Just give me the play and be quiet, because they want to think. I know other ones where the OC would be like, I think the general gist of it though is blah, 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 give the play, and just go, hey, remember, check the safety on this one. Or if you have a killed play, like it's kind of a reminder going like, hey, hey, you're killing off a 9 tech on this, maybe just like little reminders. Or they might be like, hey, they adjusted something. Hey, I'm giving you sword here, but we're going to tag the X on a double move. Okay. All right. And give the play caller there. That's where I think guys like Kyle Shanahan is fantastic in the sense that he never gets to delay a game. Because he is so ready for the next play. Coach Chris is the same way too, even with signals and everything. He's so ready for the next play that even when they give the little tidbits, they still have plenty of time to break the huddle at 20 seconds, 18 seconds, and still have time to operate and do everything they want to do. But yeah, some guys like the reminders. Some guys just are like, no, don't say a freaking word. I'll read it out. Like, I make $100 million. Don't talk to me. It all depends on the guy.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. That's one thing that I've often wondered about, especially like even on the defensive end, right? Like if you think about, and I think that what you're saying with like those small, subtle reminders, those are like the little game plan specific stuff, right? Like, oh, hey, we want to run outside zone, but remember, if they give us a bear look, we want to can it and get into, weak side lead. Okay, got it. Especially if you're dealing with a young quarterback, or, hey, remember when we worked our third down period, we know if the safety's rotated low, they're actually spinning back into some cover 2 look. So be prepared for that, right? Those types of things. And then on the defensive end, it probably works the same way as well. Like, hey, we want to dial up this specific pressure on 3rd and 7. Hey, if we see the back is to the tight end side, we know we got the look we want. Or if the back's to the tight end side, that's not the look we want. Let's change it. We're going to automatically check it to whatever the other blitz the formation look that we have. That's an asset that the pros have. I can speak from the high school level and even at the college level when I was playing. A lot of those adjustments have to happen in between series and drives, right? Yeah. It's like, oh man, we got burned on jet sweep. Remember when we talked about we're in 3 and it's jet sweep, we're supposed to blah, 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 blah. Okay, got it. And then you got to hope that your players retain enough of that information. Yeah. In order to be able to execute it. So that is one thing that's always fascinated me about the NFL and the whole green dot system.
Even the reminders for other, like in the huddle, like there will be times like I know in Oakland, we would go like, hey, Derek, hey, tell Donald Penn, like, just remember, like, like an assistant coach, usually my dad, he'd be the only one that would do this, but it would be someone would go like, hey, make sure you tell Rodney, like, hey, he doesn't have to rip that. He doesn't have to rip that. Just go 5-0, we're yada, yada, yada. Like, and that sometimes would be an in-series adjustment, a stoppage of play where not everyone could come over, those types of things. And again, it's on the coaches to know what to communicate, because sometimes it's one of those things too, is no information is better than bad information. And, when you're playing, sometimes you just want to tell the coach, hey, I got it. Like, please stop talking because too much is going on. And so I think that's the balance that some coaches find with the players that, hey, they like this. They like knowing this. We also, in pros, you have the pictures. And I know in college, we didn't have the pictures. I don't know what it is now. But that helps as well. Or the Surface tablets, right. Is the official, the Microsoft Surface tablets. Yeah, the iPads. But again, on those, that helps too, is like mid-series, I can be looking at what the last play is as I'm on the sideline going like, boom, oh shit, there were a bear there? Oh God, hey, they haven't shown bear before. And then you can talk. And that's a communication aspect. Mm-hmm. It's just, it's a lot of fun. It's like those 15 seconds of like when the ball's spotted, clock's winding, and then just getting the communicating the personnel and the formation and just like all the information that gets passed. Hey, second and four. Okay, boom, boom, boom. I think that stuff's so fascinating. And that's the stuff that I love when I see a good play caller, offense or defense, really on top of their shit. And that's why I love like a McVay's of the world, or even Arthur Smith the last couple of years was like changing of tempos, like because they just anticipate doing all these things. And I love those types of things going like they hit a big play. We're going to go fast. All right, now we're slowing it down. But no one's messing up the formation, the personnel changes. No one's subbing in and out. The running back coach knows not to put in, the third down protector on this play because we have this dialed up. That usually just shows to me that the whole coaching staff's on the same freaking page. When you see a team like the Cardinals, when the guys are subbing it out or running into each other, and like you can see half the guys know what to do and half the guys don't. That's where I'm always a little lower on them, even though as much as I love watching Kyler Murray and some of their players play. But that's why I kind of I was on a show earlier this week where they say, "Do you get horned up for Kyle Shanahan?" I got a little ticked off, but it was like that stuff is fun to watch. Like that's the stuff that it is fun to watch in football.
This reminds me that XFL version 2 or XFL 2.0 or whatever got it right with the headset stuff because you're not talking to, and this is like honestly, we could probably use headsets in college football and make the game go better because it is such a hard sport, especially for the quarterback, that it's like, hey, why don't we just give him all the crutches to a certain degree that he needs? Because it's like, you're not like, these guys aren't, Matt Ryan and Dak and all these top Brady, they're not falling off trees, especially in college. So it's like, give them everything that we can do and the game will be better. And we won't get, like I said, on the Tuesday podcast, we won't get like Penn State running like 60 screens a game. And like, that's the offense. Like, whatever. I don't have to get into that again. But.
Or people stealing signals, or that's the other thing. And I know that's part of the game. Like that's part of the gamesmanship of college and high school football is stealing signals, and baseball and other sports. Like that's some of the fun too. It's sometimes when you do steal signals, the best. But it's 2021. It's like they were putting headsets in the quarterbacks in the mid 80s. Like the USFL came around and that was like one of their big innovations was putting the headsets in the quarterback helmets. It's like, that was mid 80s. I mean, it's almost 40 years now that we've been doing this. It's like, we can do it in college now. Okay. Like if the National League is about to get a designated hitter, then college football can have headsets and helmets for quarterbacks.
Okay. So I brought up Dak just now. Dak is like your favorite quarterback. Am I wrong about this? I think he is.
He really, yeah. Because how he plays is how I wish I could have played. Seriously, like that, like how he plays is what I picture my ideal quarterback. Like that, I think that's why I like him so much. Just everything he does. Yeah.
So let's talk about that. 2 games in, they go and they get the win against LA against the Chargers. So they're 1-1, tough loss to the Bucks. What have you seen so far from Dak that makes you still believe
that he's a machine, that he's a freaking football machine right now? Someone said, someone in my reply said Dakota Breeze, and I was like, that's kind of what he is at this point in time. Like it's shocking how much quick game they run, and usually I'm a guy that hates quick game, and I'm like, screw this, like this is a crutch. But when you have a quarterback operating that fast and with the talent they have, it's different than what the Saints have done the last couple of years, as you know, Seth. Like you had Michael Thomas, Kamara, like some nice pieces, but like who was creating, after the catch?
Don't get me started about the Saints receiving core this year,
Yeah. Oh, well, we probably could. If we're talking about one other thing later, we might get into it. But it's but that's the thing is the Cowboys are stacked, even with Gallup down. It's those other 2 receivers. CD's playing phenomenal. They're using Cooper in a different way, which is kind of cool. He's actually blocking, which I mean, good for Amari. And like they're using him as the Z now, which I privately kind of thought that Amari is a Z because you can move him inside and out, move him across the formation. If you're in bunch stacks or in stack formations, you can get him off the ball. Those I kind of always had figured him as Z. What you got, Seth?
Well, no, this is what I'm going to say is that it certainly works with him as a Z. Because secretly, Michael Gallup is a hell of an X receiver.
Yes. And that that's what actually with all those guys, they are kind of like the prototypes for each. Like Gallup is like, even though he's not the best receiver in the world, he is a true X. Like that is an X receiver through and through. CD is a move guy. He's a modern slot guy. That's kind of how I look, because he's physical. He runs vertical routes, create after the catch. He blocks. Like that's a modern a modern slot. So I love that they switched those two around, Amari and CD. And then the two tight ends are both plus tight ends, like they really are. And then the backs, of course. And I just think with what they're doing with Dak last week and week 1 against the Bucs, they knew they weren't getting anything done. Zach Martin's out. Vita Vea is a monster. We can't run the ball. Like we can, but like, we're going to run a couple times, but we know that's not our bread and butter today. So I love the kind of side to side swing game they're running and all the screens and just kind of get the big bodies of the Bucs moving back and forth, replacing the run game. It was like an old school air raid offense. I mean, it really was just going back and forth, and then getting the guys moving side to side. And then this week, the fact that they're able to go, no, we're pounding the rock this week. And then Dak was just able to kind of play more of a game manager type. The interception was a weird one. I think he kind of in between it,
Yeah, I couldn't tell if he was throwing it over the top or he was throwing the over. I think he was throwing I think he just missed. I
do too. I think it was a classic, like, like you play basketball and it's like, do I bank it or do I go for net? And you kind of don't do either, and you hit the rim, or maybe I just do that all the time.
Maybe that's just you.
Why.
Yeah.
That's just me. Yeah, but with Dak, it's like, I mean, he is mentally, he's top 3. I think. I mean, I could shake that anyway, but he's one of the most mentally sharp guys in the entire league. He's throwing extremely accurate. I'm not worried about his arm strength, and I think it's gotten better already. Like game 2 was, there should be no concerns. Honestly, the only thing I want to see is maybe a couple more deep balls. Like that's really all I want to see so far in this year. But the thing is, when you're knifing defenses left and right with this kind of stuff, who cares? And I mean, he's putting field throws out on the money. He threw the stop ball to CD Lamb against the Chargers. That was like, he like hit CD right in the, as you know, Seth, like you aim outside and stop so guys can't undercut it. I mean, they freaking pull CD out of it. And it's just like, oh my God, like just little stuff like that. All those, he's taking triples when there's singles there. He's hitting home runs when there's doubles there. If there's only a single there, that single is perfect. Like there's no fat in this game right now. It's so much fun to watching a guy this smart operate every week.
I think the thing that's probably stood out to me most was what I was most concerned about coming into the season, which is how is he going to operate in the pocket if his feet aren't all the way under him the way that they were before the injury. And I think it's pretty clear. You can watch, like, he does not navigate the pocket as explosively from a movement perspective as what he did before the injury. But I think that he's been able to kind of supplement that by getting even more efficient in his process between the ears. That was like the first thing that stood out to me against Tampa Bay was like, oh, this is what the Super Bowl would have looked like if all the wide receivers would have caught the ball for Patrick Mahomes. Because it's almost, that's what it kind of looked like being able to get by all this pressure or be able to work quickly enough to know, like, yeah, we don't like these matchups on the interior or on the edges in terms of their pass rushers versus our pass protectors. So I know that I'm not even going to bother with the alert. I'm not even going to bother with the second look in the progression. It's either here or here, or I know I've got CD in the slot. I know I got CD in the slot. He would typically be the third in the progression, but I've got to look at him now because I know I'm not going to have enough time to work all the way through. That's so to your point about that, the Dakota Breeze thing, like that's where I think that corollary really fits, is because that's the kind of thing that, we gave a lot of credit to Breeze for, is understanding that as you athletically decline, you have to be able to supplement that with your mental process. And that's why, when I left that game against Tampa Bay and watching them against a pretty good coverage unit, at least another good coverage performance from the Chargers, like, wow, this guy really might be an MVP if they win enough games. That's how he's playing right now.
Yeah. Dude, Deontay, that was such a great point about shortcutting reads. That's the next step quarterback play. It's you can go 1 to 2 to 3 on everything, 1 to 3 to 4 on everything. And a lot of times it's really 1 to 2. And a lot of times it's really 1. and then it's like, oh shit, if I'm wrong, I got to go do something. But that's such a great point, is when you can get to that point where you can just go, hey, I know 1's dead. I know 2's dead. 3 is my actual 1. and then 4 is now my 2. Like that is the next step stuff. And that's such a great point that he did. Trevor Lawrence did the same thing on Sunday. That's why I'm excited about him, by the way.
We're at two different worlds with Trevor right now.
I know. He did one play, and I was pretty fired up about. But that's such a great point, Deontay, is that like that is next level quarterback stuff, is when you can just know where the fat in your play is and just cut it out before the ball's even snapped. You're just operating so much quicker than everybody else.
All right, here's a reference that just hit me when Deontay said the thing about the athleticism changing after the injury and having to do different stuff. All right, you guys ready for this? 2002, Matt Mock, LSU quarterback, running quarterback, gets injured, comes back in 2003, is more of a pocket passer. LSU wins the national championship. All right, that is. So you talk about Dakota Breeze all you want. It's Dakota Mock, okay? That's who really we're talking about here.
And we reset the counter on days without an LSU national championship reference on the podcast back to 0.
We went to the original one too. That was.
I got 3. I can talk. I've seen 3 in my lifetime. So
no big deal.
No, I thought Dak. I think so. 2 things, like the Dak thing against this Chargers defense. Remember week 1 last year against the Rams, playing against Brandon Staley's defense. I mean, we know what Brandon Staley is about, and he's not going to give you a lot of stuff down the field. And that was, I remember after watching that game, people were like, oh my God, they didn't score any points. Maybe they only scored like 20. And they actually should have won the game because they got called for a bogus offensive pass interference call on Gallup, playing X receiver backside of trips. But anyways, like, and everyone was like, Dak, what's going on? And you watch the film, it's like he's doing everything you're supposed to do. That defense was very new, obviously very new at the time, and very difficult to throw the ball deep on. And you saw it again this week, but he does everything you're supposed to do. Thought he missed Cooper 1 time. It was a weird play. Cooper just got straight down the field on the sideline, and he actually throws it for a first down over the middle. Yeah. But I thought he went away from Cooper a little early, but whatever. It's not
Cooper had that would have been. Yeah, he had the out and up. And I know it was one of those where it was like, you don't want to dog Dak on it because you can see him operating so quick and hitting the dig. But it's it was right there.
but one of the things is like, we can talk about missing reads, blah, 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 blah. The whole thing, it's not about like it's never about a one-time thing. And that's why we don't like if man, I don't know who's hasn't played very well. If Zach Wilson, who threw 4 interceptions, if he had missed that, we would have been like, that's the problem with Zach Wilson. He misses all blah blah blah. But it's like, okay, consistently Dak is hitting those, so we can like be like, all right, well, every quarterback, Brady does it, Breeze did it, Rodgers did. They're gonna miss open receivers. It happens, but like, are you doing it consistently? And I don't think Dak is certainly not doing it consistently. He is getting to the right read all the time. The accuracy. You posted that clip of the 10-yard out to Dalton Schultz or the other tight end, like, oh my God, disgusting.
And there's no fat in the drop. It's like clinic tape. It's like 1, 2, 3, gone. 1, 2, 3, hitch, gone. And it's just, I know, because there's other guys that are accurate, but they'll maybe have a little extra step, or they get to the ball late. It's just like, I mean, we'll talk about one guy in a minute, but it's just. I know he does that stuff, and it's so hard to defend because you're defending the entire width of the field, all 53 yards. And it's just, that's hard. I mean, that is gravity, because then now it's one guy, everybody's on a string now. If you want to run zone coverage, he's going to find your spot. And if you want to run man against them, then it's like, oh shoot, we got to guard CD, Amari Cooper, a tight end. Both these tight ends can beat linebackers or safeties. Or Tully Pollard on a guy. Like, they just have matchup advantages. So they're just built. They're built to be a real headache for a lot of defenses. I mean, they really are. And like, if Dak is, like you said, Deontay, performing at this level, MVP tier level, and that the stats follow and the wins follow it, like, it's like, oh man, it's gonna be a really exciting year for them.
All right, let's talk about a guy who lost to LSU in a national championship game, and that's Trevor Lawrence. I'll start. So I want to give the listeners my. I don't know if this is new. I don't know where on the take scale this is, but Trevor Lawrence plays like a quarterback who knows there is more to life than football. And I compare that to a guy like Peyton Manning, who looks like the only thing that ever matters is football. And like Peyton had this like very almost nervous energy in his drop back, the way he would pat his feet. It was so the way he would all like his whole body had to go towards the target every time he threw the ball, 3/4 up, and like the whole body was going. And Trevor is so different that way. I know they both tried tight window throws. Peyton Manning is an elite tight window thrower. Yeah. Like he's unbelievable, right? They're talking about the best quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks of all time. But with Trevor, it was like, it's like a lot kind of bigger movements to get to a certain spot because I'm going to throw this ball right here. That's it. And when it looks good, it's out of this world, right? Fortunately, as it looks so good so far in 2 weeks. Now, I think we're about to talk about all the rookies except for Trey Lance. And I think, we have to remind everyone it's 2 weeks in. There's so many, circumstantial things that are going on with all these guys. But we can take a look at the film. We can be like, hey, what's going on with all these guys? And again, we're starting with Trevor Lawrence. I'm seeing a guy who is trying all sorts of wilds. It's fun. It's like fun tape to watch because he's trying throws that a lot of guys are not trying. Execution is F right now. It's F. Like, I'm sorry. Like, you can talk about the offensive line. You can talk about the receivers. He's not putting the ball in the right spots. He's overthrowing everyone. The throws are cool, but they're not working. So what have you seen on tape from Trevor so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's not perfect, like you said. At first I thought you were going to say too, and I think we've talked about this before, is that Trevor Lawrence is kind of like, he knows what team he's on. Like he knows what he can get away with. And I mean that in the sense that he ain't taking a check down. He goes for the throw. And one of why I've always been kind of higher on Darnold than other people was I would much rather have a quarterback that is aggressive and is willing to work downfield than a guy that instantly goes to the check down. And seeing Lawrence just always, he takes a 3rd and 12. He's trying to find 1 to 3 deep routes on it. Like he's trying to find it, which is so bizarre to me. Like I've never seen a rookie quarterback just go like, and not in a bad way, where it's like, I only know 1 route on this, and we'll talk about a quarterback in a second that does this. I only know 1 route on this, and that's where I'm going with it. It's him progressing, but he's like, all right, well, there's my over. All right, let's shuffle in the pocket and then let's whip a 0.001% ball in there. And it's like, okay, I appreciate your aggressiveness. I appreciate the freaking throw you just threw. Check it out. Just check it out. It's what's the classic saying? End every drive with a punt or with a kick. Either
right.
Or
you never go, or like you never go broke taking a profit, right? Like that's the quarterback coach axiom around.
Sometimes the world. It's okay to hit a single. And as someone that always goes, they have to hit home runs when there's only doubles out there, or they have to take a triple when there's single. It's like sometimes though, it's okay to take a walk. Sometimes it's okay to take a single. You don't have to go for it every single time and go at it. And I've seen him check it down, so I know he has it in him. But right now he's like, I don't give a shit, it's crazy fun. It's fun, but it's like, I'm glad I'm not coaching him right now because it's such a fine balance because you don't want to take it out, but you also want to be like, help yourself out, dude. Now,
I'm sorry to cut you off. The thing I was going to say about Lawrence, and obviously it's 2 games in, so we do have to have some concern about sample size. But long term, if you're going to ask me what the issue with having a first-year head coach who kind of seems to be having a difficult time adjusting to the NFL, if you want to talk about like a long-term concern for me, it's, do you have a head coach that's not going to feel empowered enough to tell his superstar rookie quarterback, hey, dude, you letting it rip has been great and awesome, and we love the fact that you're confident, but it's time to grow up and be a pro quarterback. You can't make bad plays worse, right? Like you cannot continually make bad plays worse. Hey, if you're not feeling that great about the throw, if you don't feel good about the progression, let's maybe not try to throw the ball down the sideline 25 yards down the field. If it's not there, you got great legs. Take your own check down, take the 6 yards, get out of bounds. Let's try again next time. If it's 3rd and 8 and we can't get 15, it's okay. We'll punt and we'll try the next 3rd and 8.
You just understand 3rd and 12, you get 1 out of 5 of those. That's a good offense. That's a good offense getting 1 out of 5. Like, hey, dude, you're not getting every single one of those.
Right. Like the most elite offensive coordinators in the NFL will tell you, like, hey, there are some situations where I might try to call the best play, but I know in the back of my head that we're probably going to lose this down. And that's okay. What I don't want to have happen is tell my quarterback, hey, we got to go get this. and now it's an interception or it's a sack strip because my guy is holding the ball for 3.5 seconds trying to find that deep over route or that home run post route when we know that we should probably just check it out into the flats. If we find a first down because the guy breaks 2 tackles, awesome. But otherwise, we want to live to fight another day.
Yes.
I think one of the issues is, so in the Broncos game, you talk about 3rd and 12. I think this was 3rd and 17 or something like that. And he throws this deep curl, deep hitch, whatever, at 18 yards on the money that, the hook defender moves just a little inside. And I think he hits Chark just stationary. And it's that's a problem because he's well, guess what I just did. And I'm going to do it again. I'm going to try and do it again.
Exactly.
Yep. Justifying bad behavior, man.
And then he's throwing these corner routes. And it's well, first of all, sometimes he's throwing, like I said, his accuracy right now it's not good. But he's also just okay, I can fit this ball in there. I can fit this ball in here. And then you're throwing a corner route and the corner is sinking. He's not even, he doesn't even care about the flat route in front of him. He's sinking. And you're still trying to fit the ball in there. And it's I honestly, I have high hopes for this guy. He was, one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch in college because I think you said it, Nate. It's there's his process of it's spatial awareness is really good, and the way he moves and stuff is really good. And so I was excited. I'm probably more concerned, I think, than both of you guys are. I really don't.
You are the mid.
I really
you're more
like
concerned
what
than
I've
me.
seen.
That's the thing is I'm not as down as maybe you are on it. I still think, there's plenty to teach and everything, but I still think it's I think the corner that you're talking about, for me, I think that was the one Von Miller got on his arm and he sailed it on the guy. He went on a thing.
Okay.
But on that one, he should have stepped up. And that's hard. You don't know Von Miller's going to go freaking inside. I mean, that's NFL though. That's the NFL. Yeah. There's a ton of freaks out there every week. That's what sucks about it. Is that you're just putting yourself. It's the process for all of these. That's some of these results. Some of it was the rain and all that. I am not as down. I still think he does some shit that's just rare. That's why I'm still so optimistic on him. I just think right now it's 2 weeks in. He's playing with house's money. I think he is smart enough to know that too. He's this team ain't good. He's never going to say it because he's I don't think Lawrence, like you said, he's not one guy you're never going to see him with Mike Vanderjagt missing a kick. And then you should see Peyton Manning going, he effing missed it. And then on the radio show that week goes, our idiot kicker, da-da-da-da-da. You'll never have that instance with Trevor Lawrence, I don't think. But it's just it's going to be kind of a weird competitiveness with him. It's just that's the type of guy he is, which I really like. I agree with what your concerns are, Seth, but I still just think that there's just so much good still in there that's I'm actually buying more stock in what he's doing because I know I just think
I'll sell you all of mine. I got tons. I'll sell it all to you.
Okay. Hey, if we can get Levinsky and Chenault to run a real route and then we can and stop giving him 12 targets, then okay, maybe that'll help out some stuff. But I do think those concerns are real. But that's the thing is now is week 12. If he's still doing it, then I'll be
of course,
oh shit.
Of course.
Yeah. And then, but it's as of right now, I think it's just more he's just F it and just uncorking some grenades. And hopefully he learns that sometimes it's not bad. Just take a little bit of a profit, even if you want the big gains on all those.
Okay. Let's move on to kind of to a certain degree, complete opposite of Trevor Lawrence. And that is New England Patriots quarterback, Mac Jones, who I haven't been impressed with so far. And because I saw a lot better tape in Alabama, and he was pushing the ball down the field. It's not like he was taking checkdowns at Alabama and everyone was running, breaking tackles and getting first downs. I mean, they did throw a lot of bubble screens that went for touchdowns, but whatever. In terms of a drop back passing game, he was fine. He could throw the ball. He made the right decisions. And now you watch him and you're like, dude, why aren't you seeing this open down the field? Are you what's going on with you? I didn't think you were, I hate to say it, I didn't think you were a coward, and you're playing like a coward right now. And that's kind of what I've seen so far from Mac Jones. What have you seen?
It's kind of like with Tua last year, where it's him getting the ball out so quick. Is that a bug or a feature? You know what I mean? Is that a good thing, or is that, hey, dude, you got to read this play out, man. Like you got to realize the alert you actually have to hit once in a while, like, or the one. It's one of those things where you get reminded that he wasn't a gun heavy RPO offense. And because I see some of this play action stuff and he has issues finding it right now, because I know that's hard, turning your back to the defense and getting up. Like that's an understated talent.
Dude, they're running non-play action under center dropbacks. Yeah. Like he's going from like a 5-step drop under center. Yep. I know it's like mostly quick game, but like I was like, oh shit, that's.
If I were putting together what Mac Jones's like game plan, how many screens do they run, by the way? Yeah. But if I was putting together their game plan, like I would do no 7-step, like just let him operate on a 5-step schedule, because that's what he's used to. That's what that in RPO world, that's all quick game and 5-step stuff. So I think that's where his clock goes. And so now he's operating, I think, that half second quicker, and he's not used to it yet. That's being a rookie quarterback. It's those windows close tighter. That speed's a little different. The air to throw the ball is a little different. Like how much space you have to put in front of your guy. And I'm curious to see over the next couple weeks whether there is something with him being under center in the gun, because that is the first thing that's popped to me watching him on film, is that when he's under center, it's not the same as when he's operating from the gun. He just does not see it as he should, as you would think he would. But then you also remember with the offense he was at Alabama. But no one's creating any explosives either. That's the other thing. But yeah, that's all I got. What else?
Well, I was just going to say the difference is like we've talked about like being under center and how that's worked for so many different, this wide zone coaching tree, right? Mm-hmm. But it's not the same what they're doing. It's more of a vertical downhill running game, and they're not booting him off play action to get those easy flat routes, to get these easy completions on intermediate crossers or whatever. So that's what I would say is like, it's tougher. It's a lot tougher. Yeah. This under center play action game is a lot tougher than what Jared Goff was running, what Jimmy runs and what Ryan Tannehill runs.
Yep. And yeah, like this version is more like the Titans version than the Rams version of their play action stuff. Even with a fullback, I know Deontay's got some stuff with the Titans and their fullback, but even having the fullback in there and also just the fakes that are used and the concepts, because it's all so much more in breakers where you have to throw in some muck. It's 1-2. I mean, how many times have we seen Tom Brady do it? Flash fake, plant your foot and frickin' whip it in there. And that takes some faith, especially when you're turning your back to the defense. And also they still do the footwork on it, which is hilarious. They do like counter handoff motion with the quarterback on the play fake without a puller. And I don't know if that's a rhythm thing. Is that like a Tom Brady? Like I saw they had Mac Jones doing it and they didn't have a guy pulling. Usually you see the counter fake with a puller or, somebody with it, and he's doing the counter fake. And I'm very curious now. I want to watch all the Patriots with those fakes, because he has to switch the ball twice when he does it. And then he has to grab the ball and throw it. Now I'm like fascinated with the Patriots, like little quirks. Cause now you see we had Tom Brady. Cam's offense last year was a total anomaly, a total outlier of what they were doing. So now I get to see this offense operate with another quote unquote drop back quarterback. So I'm like, all these little things are like, look a little different when number 12's not back there doing it with a 0 fat and everything looks perfect. So that's something else I want to see. It's like, they're asking him to do a lot. The run games, I posted the clip, the run game, he's fixing guys and they're making him do the mic points. Like for the run game, they're making him do mic points. And I was like, oh boy, they just said, hey, you're smart. Here's everything. Like good luck. That's what it seems like they've done to him so far. They're like, hey, you got to operate with everything. They're taking nothing out. I think they were going for more of the long-term play than how he looks the first couple of weeks. That's my theory anyways.
I think that you're right in that. And really the only thing I have to add is kind of off of what you started with. And I think it's something we're going to continue to bump up against with these young quarterbacks. They are coming from systems that are built to be quarterback proof. There's not a lot of thought in these offenses that they're coming from. I think that, we sometimes can get caught with the helmet sticker. That's something that obviously people are taught to try to unbias themselves with as often as possible. But it's hard to do when it's Alabama and they've gone so many years of maybe asking their quarterbacks to be like real pro-ready NFL quarterbacks to embracing a little bit more of the spread stuff that's going on now. That means that you get spread quarterbacks. And that's what Tua was coming out of college. That's what Mac Jones is coming out of college. So I do think eventually McDaniels will continue to kind of build on what his strengths are. I do think that this year, to your point, is a little bit of, dude, I'm handing you the playbook and you're going to learn this playbook the way I have it written up. Before we do anything, before we make any changes at all, you're going to learn this thing the proper way. And then we can start talking about what you are and aren't comfortable with, which I understand.
Yeah,
I completely understand, because Josh McDaniels has all the job security in the world, right? He doesn't have to think about, okay, I've got to watch all the Alabama film from the last 3 years to find every single call that he ever completed and make sure that I check with him and how he feels. No, he's going to be here for a while, and that means that Mac has got to learn Josh McDaniels' offense before Josh McDaniels learns Mac Jones's offense. So, those are just going to be kind of I think the natural growing pains that we're going to see from this guy for at least, the first half of the season. And I think by the time we get to the second half, you may see a few more like little wrinkles that may fit Mac Jones's game a little bit more naturally.
Yep. And we've talked, I've already mentioned this kind of saying a couple of times. There's a couple of times where he does have to get to what is the true number one read or the deeper portion on some of these concepts. Like, I think that's the first step for him. It's like, hey, dude, it's okay. Like, it's okay to trust it a little bit. I think he just has to let it rip a little bit. And I think that he did in the preseason. So I was like, oh shit, is this guy gonna just walk in and just look like this? And then it's like, I think this speed of the game picked up drastically getting into the regular season, because I think there's a couple times where he has the home run play on the concept, but he's going to go for the safer option, which if you guys that can break tackles and based on what your team is, that's fine. But for a first round quarterback, you want him to start attacking down the field when the opportunities are there. You don't have to be a dummy and just do it just cause. But when you find those kind of shots that you can take those shots on, he's got to take them. So I think that's the first step more than anything for him.
So one of the things that I noticed while watching him against the Dolphins played a lot of cover two. The Dolphins, we know, are a big time man coverage team because they come off the Patriots tree. And I'm looking it up now. The Dolphins were 26th last year in the rate of cover two that they called. Only 4.3% of their snaps in the regular season were cover two.
And when I watched it, probably.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And then now week 1, 2021, it's like, whoa, like they're playing a lot. I can bring up the numbers, but it's irrelevant. Like, and those were the throws that he missed, were like, they were running these like through routes, right up the gut, and the mics weren't carrying all the time, and they were spreading a lot, and they were there for the taking. And it is interesting. He did throw one whole shot it might have been the next game, but he definitely threw a cover two whole shot, which is very nice, to like Jacoby Myers or something. But it's funny how, like, now if we're getting a cover two-ish league, quarters, cover two, less cover three, whatever.
I just say too high.
Yeah, exactly.
I just blanket it.
Like, hey man, like and we said this after week 1, we were joking with each other and saying like, hey, if you like, everyone's like, oh my God, look at all these post routes. Like, Stafford throws the post and Lockett catches the post. And it's like, yeah, well, this is the league now. If this is what defenses want to do, get ready for Big 12 touchdowns. Like, this is what's going to happen. And then I look at Mac Jones and I'm like, if this is what the defense wants to do to you, you got to take advantage of it. And like the Dolphins, and it was I guess to a certain degree, it's a great game plan by the Dolphins, because he didn't take advantage of those specific things. Like, you got to hit those, but safety splitting, seam shot through balls, like, or else they have too many guys underneath.
Yep. And there's going to be a play we're going to talk about with Fields, or I'll talk about this, but the step that quarterbacks have to take is, okay, you play cover two, Seth. How many times would everyone just kind of go like, oh, take, you say you run curl flats. Oh, just take the over route, just pound it, 5-yard gains, 6-yard gains, just pound it. In the NFL, defenses go, okay. They're like, okay, we'll do that because you'll fuck up at some point. And that's what they're betting on. And to punish teams that want to play a safer coverage and go cover two, or two man, they're trying to make the quarterback make a hero throw. Because what's the weakness in cover two is down the pipe, a deep dig, hole shots, seam, like, just those are tough throws. And that's what they're saying. But that's the thing, is if you're a first round quarterback, you got to get to that. Otherwise, teams are just going to go, hey, all right, check it down, bud. Yeah, check it down. We'll rally and tackle. I bet you one of those, you'll throw high and it'll tip up and we'll get a pick. The Bears did it for years. from what 03 to 2012. Like, I mean, they did it for a decade. They did play this way. The Bucs did it for forever. They are fine just letting you do that and meander down the field. It's so funny how defenses have switched back to this way. And they're saying, hey, quarterbacks are good, so make them play patient or make them be good. And I that's what Mac Jones has got to learn. That's what all the rookie quarterbacks have to learn. And it's so funny talking about him and Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is doing that, but now it's like, no, now do what Mac Jones is doing and check it down. But it's like, and I'm not scared that Mac Jones can't do it, because like you said, you saw him do a whole
physically
shot.
He can do it. I have no problem with that.
He's so accurate. Like, I mean, generally rare accuracy, like at least excellent on the scale, like the old scouting scale. Like it's uncanny sometimes. He'd be like falling down and it's just like, and the ball just goes right into the running back's hands. And it's like, what the hell? Like, how did that happen? So it's just, hey, take those shots when you can take those shots. Because otherwise, like you said, they're going to just make defense are just going to make them do that all game. And it's going to be a whole bunch of these ugly 17-13 battles for the Patriots this year.
It's funny because we were talking to, I remember saying this to our friend Justice Mosqueda, who's been on the podcast recently, and just talking, because I was like, everything's going back to like cover 4 and cover 2, and everyone's going to like, they're playing everyone over the top and stuff. And Justice was like, no, that's good, because we're going to see some fucking cool throws. Yep. Like, we're going to see these hole shots, like Justin Herbert week 1 against Washington. Yep. Like, that's going to happen. These seam splitting, 9 balls, seam splitting, safety splitting seams is the words I'm looking for.
There we go. Well, I think it's also interesting. The timing of this in the NFL is also fascinating to me, because we have the old guard of quarterbacks all being kind of moved out, save for Tom Brady, basically. Like, you could not just live in this world against the old guard of quarterbacks who were trained a little bit more conventionally, in a way to say like, hey, we're going to teach you how to identify that that's the coverage you're getting pre-snap. So you don't even have to think about, typically I'd hit the over and then I'd go to the check down. Oh, but now I see it's 2 safeties high. So now let me see if I have enough time to load up and uncork this post wall. Like, those experienced quarterbacks would be able to get to those throws much earlier in the process. And now the ones who are here outside of Brady somehow aren't even physically capable of being able to hit those throws, even if they were to identify it. So that's kind of what's interesting as well, is a lot of these younger quarterbacks now are going to have to go through that tough process of a defense daring you, basically it's saying that we'll not give you, but we know that the post or the seams are maybe where we're a little bit more vulnerable, but we're banking on the fact that we all run 4.5s, 4.4s, and 4.6s, and you've got to be a grown-up and beat us to the spot, And that's what's going to be interesting to me, I think, over the next couple of years, as this new crop of quarterbacks gets a little bit more acclimated with an NFL where, they've seen quarters in cover 2 before at the college level. They just have not seen it be run with this level of speed,
Speed and disguise and everything.
Exactly.
And also it's for years and years and years, or I should say years and years, but like last half decade, everybody being a man or a match version of single high match coverage is really, you're making it, the game became, okay, win on one-on-one. Like, it was find your best receiver and win a one-on-one, or make a good throw, or make a play, make 50-50 balls. That's what defenses wanted you to do. And now we're getting back to this, and talked about at the beginning is Coach Chris will teach a play. I would say some people will teach a play and they just go 1 to 2 to 3. It doesn't matter what the coverage is. It's 1 to 2 to 3. Coach Chris is very coverage dependent. That's why I said he wants always all 5 options to be like a true option for the quarterback. I would say maybe one quarterback that I was around that ever did that. And that was Scotty Tolzien. Russ sure wasn't, okay, if it's cover 2, you go here. This is your 1 to 2. If it's quarters, you go here, 1 to 2. If it's 3, you go 1 to 2. If it's a blitz, you go 1 to 2. And everyone's different. The 1-2 is different on all of it. That is kind of what we're getting back to. Is now these quarterbacks have to learn. It's like, now I'm not just getting single high every single snap, and we'll just go into a slot formation and I can tell right away if you're a man or cover 3, and I'll go from there. Now it's like, what's 3? It's 6. Are they rotating down late? Is it man? Is it pressure? Is it a simulated pressure? Now we're getting to the grab back. We're getting back into everybody running everything, that's where, long story short, we're getting back to, that's why now we're going to see some of those hero throws, because that's what the defenses are now going to be a little more disguising with what they're doing and holding stuff. They're getting smarter too at what quarterbacks look at. So it's really cool because now the quarterbacks have to be even better and a different version of being better, like as opposed to Brady or Breeze or any of those older guys that were just knifing guys up and putting everything on the money and operate quickly. Now it's like, hey, are you willing to go deep? Are you willing to throw those deep? Are you willing to have balls to play now? And that's really what's becoming more.
So another thing that happened in that specific Mac Jones versus the Dolphins game that kind of leads us to the next quarterback, I think, is there was one play with the Dolphins, and we know the Dolphins under Flores are going to blitz and play cover zero almost as much as anyone in the league as I look up their stats right now, and they were number one in cover zero last year. So yes, they're going to run a lot of cover zero. And I think there was one play, and this goes back into what we're talking about with Mac being like, hey, dude, you got to take some risk here. They protected with 8. They protected with 7, and they had a 3 receiver route. And, you know, the Dolphins, when they're going to blitz and when a team's going to play quote unquote cover zero, is you're not blitzing. It's not engage 8. You know what I mean? Like in Madden terms, it's you're blitzing, and then there's a lot of these read blitzes and guys are popping out. But if you have a 3 tech popping out, he's not popping out and running to the pole. Like, you know what I mean? He's popping out, he's 5 yards. He can take away a slant, like whatever. So they protect with a whole bunch of players, and then they're safe. And they can, instead of having, they want to blitz? No problem. We're going to get 5 guys out on the route. And now we can pick and choose. It's like, no, we're going to protect. We're not going to have a free rusher.
Yep.
And they can get this kind of deep over post route from the slot. And Mac Jones should have hit it. Should have been a big play. He does do it. I don't remember what the result was. But it reminded me of what Matt Nagy is kind of doing with Justin Fields and saying, hey, I don't have to be this spread Patrick Mahomes offense. I can be like, hey, I don't have to be what I became last year.
Up, baby.
But I could run Justin Fields offense. And I will say that I didn't watch the Dalton throws. I just watched the field snaps. So maybe he's doing with Dalton too, and I'm just an idiot. But like, you're getting these heavy protection. Me and Deontay's favorite play, 9-8-9 doubles, throw the ball down the field, throw the one-on-one down the field. And then, you know, you're going to make a play. You're super accurate that you can get the ball there. They're running, you know, dusty. They're running this. Like, it's like you're keeping it so simple for Fields. Whereas the other guys are having like tougher times. You know, Josh McDaniels, longtime NFL OC, having a tough time figuring it out with Mac Jones, like you said. And then, you know, Trevor Lawrence kind of doing the same thing. You've talked about this before. And the Schottenheimer, I know he's just a passing game coordinator, but he's kind of a grab bag type of guy on offense. And that's not super easy for a quarterback. With Fields, it's like Nagy is like, this is my offense, man. I love what he did. And it wasn't perfect. And, you know, some throws were not great, but, you know, throwing Sale, throwing 9-8-9, he's throwing some good stuff, and I'm impressed, and I think Fields will figure it out, and I'm excited to see where this offense goes.
I agree. That is what I was kind of grew up with my dad's offenses was wadded up, touchdown to check down. And I mean, that was the Vikings offense for years. When you have Randy Moss as one of your receivers and Dante Culpepper able to throw it 75 yards, helps to be able to do that. But Fields, I mean, throws a beautiful deep ball. It makes sense. This was watching this past week, especially. I watched the Bears offense and I wasn't like, oh, the scheme sucks. It was if a bad play happened, it was the execution sucked. It was the center is awful. God awful. The center is so bad, unbelievably bad. I refuse to learn his name, number 67. He is really, really bad, guys. Like, he messed up 3 plays just because he didn't snap the ball at home with his quarterback going, it's clapping his ass off. They had a wide open touchdown in the low red zone. Fields had to scramble, and then they took a false start or a delay a game or whatever it was. The center just didn't snap it. Like, he just like sat there with his head, like he has his head down and just like wouldn't snap. It was, and he did.
This was an issue in the preseason too. Like, they had snap issues all preseason as well. It's ridiculous. I cannot.
It's really bad.
It bothers me that there is a professional football team that continues to have this issue.
It's so bad, and it goes to show how important a good center is, because the thing from the preseason, when I was so high on Fields even from the preseason, I was like, all right, this dude is exactly how he looked at Ohio State. He's super accurate. He can create plays, and he's super smart. His eyes are great on every play, 1 to 2 to 3. He had the one yesterday, or I'm sorry, on Sunday. The ball ended up kind of like sailing on a check down. He kind of was getting tackled and sailed. You watch his eyes on that play, it's perfect. Everybody's got covered across the board. He's trying to find his check down. The running back hung too long in protection and didn't get out. So he couldn't find him. And then he finds him and he's getting tackled and he sails the ball. It looks ugly, but the process for it was great. And it's like that. And even in the preseason, they were getting blitz and 5-man. Their 5-man protection is like, oh my God, it's just, everyone is a nightmare. But in August, everyone was getting off Fields. He got his helmet taken off. Oh, he should have adjusted there. Well, I mean, it's NFL center who has starts under it. And like, how the hell does he not see these simple looks? Fields, you could tell, said, I'm done with that. I'm done worried about the center pointing where we're pointing. And he adjusted that protection. And they ended up, and again, the center didn't snap the ball on this one. I think they took a delay game or something. But it was a slot pressure. I can't believe Fields saw it. It wasn't an obvious look. The safety was rotated all the way to the opposite side. The Bengals disguised it really well, and Fields pointed it out and shifted the 5-man protection to slide out to the slot pressure. And it's a no play, so no one kind of really remembers it. And it was like, oh my God, like this is his second game. He already learned from August that now he's like, no, I'm taking control of this protection. Like, screw you, you're done getting my head taken off. And he did it on a look. And at first when I saw it during the game, I was like, oh, it's probably an easy look, cap slot, like easy, field pressure. No, it wasn't. It was not. And so it was like, oh God, oh baby. So if Nagy is making it simpler, where he's not just stealing, a PG-13 or a Diet Coke version of Andy Reid stuff, and it's still instead just going like, hey, you're good at this stuff, let's just do it. It's so much more vertical shit. It's wide cross. It's 99 play. It's good. It's good football. It's just good football plays. Let's not go crazy and do all these gimmicky shit like he's done the last couple of years with Trubisky, all this 1x3 stuff with no receivers and a tight end. It's like, no, let's just get in here. We have an awesome running back, and let's just go play action. Let's go vertical. And we have a guy that can, those play action plays too, having a quarterback that can create and just be their own check down, that helps too. Like he creates another check down on the play, even if it's a pressure. And it's just, I know, I'm super excited about him.
Trey Hendrickson flew off of him on like the third down play that sealed the game. That's a sack. Like,
yeah, it should have been a sack. I mean, easily a sack.
And that's what that's the bonus you're getting from this guy who, yeah, I understand it didn't look amazing. Some throws were off, but like, who cares? Like, Matt Nagy is my favorite offensive coordinator now of all time. So we're rolling with the Bears now forever. Last we got to get here. Last rookie quarterback. Of course, Trey Lance hasn't really played. So last rookie quarterback, Zach Wilson. My one thing about Wilson is, yes, I understand that the interception's not good. It's not good.
Yeah, it's not.
The offensive line is. It's not. It's really the whole thing is not good, and it's like I'm not. I was never a huge Zach Wilson guy, but I also don't want to take a victory lap already because it's bad. It's bad.
Yeah, the whole thing was bad. I mean, and it was a tough ass, especially this past week, tough ass defense to go against. They're gonna punish you if you miss anything, and much less the first and second. Even my notes, I say the first and second interceptions, I can understand. Okay, the first one, it was squeezed. They had good coverage on it. It is what it is. You wish he got off of it, but really there was no other throw on it. The second one, he actually throws a good ball. Corey Davis, it just tips off his hands. Would I want him to throw it? Probably not. With 3 guys squeezed all around it, throws a good ball on it. The third and fourth ones were atrocious. The third one was just plain bad, and so that's what you said. I'm not saying like, oh, damn, Zach Wilson, because he honestly made 2 throws after he did all that bad stuff. He had 2 throws that were like 1%er throws, and it was just like, oh shit, you still have that arm talent. I know. Yeah. He just needs to anticipate. He does, his drops are too long right now. He kind of has the Drew Lock issue where he has that extra step in his drop where he does the false step and then he drops, and he has arm talent where he can get away with it a little bit. But now when you play a defense like the Patriots, they're so aggressive and so we're jumping everything. that it hurts because he ends up late on so many of these throws. And like I said, he has the arm talent, but guess what? That arm talent can only get you so far. Good defenses are going to punish you if you're late. Good corners are going to punish you if you're late. And I just thought like that just kind of kept cropping up. The third down one where he just sails the corner. I don't know what the hell happened. Like it was short. He's like late on the throw, and then he tries to, and then he like went BYU, and he's like, "Oh, my guy will win a jump ball."
Yeah.
You know, like he like kind of reverted back to those bad habits. But man, he makes some awesome throws. But it's just, I think that's the first thing he's going to have to fix is he has to take out that little extra hiccup in his dropbacks, and he also, I think, game planning plays really messed with his head a little bit.
Well, to me, go ahead. You can go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say is just, I think newer plays he's not used to. I think he's got to get used to what an NFL playbook is, and the fact that how much shifts week in, week out. Because there were some plays where you can tell he's guessing on routes, where he's looking up and he's like, I think I got an over route here. Yes, there he is. And then you'll throw it. And he just has to cut out that little half second of pause that he has right now.
Well, to me, to your point, I think my point is kind of a carrying on from where you were at. Like the thing that when I was watching the interception specifically, there's some footwork issues there. But to me, when you look at like from a processing perspective, he's almost robotic in how he's trying to work through the progression. Like the first one, it's on play action. They're kind of running this dagger concept. So you got these double in routes, and you can tell that all throughout training camp, he was told by his offensive coordinator, hey, your wide receivers are going to give you information here. They're going to tell you if it's zone or man. If it's zone, that first in route is going to sit right over the ball at 15 yards, and you're going to drill it in there, and then he has his back turned. So he's hoping that his wide receivers get good intel. The wide receiver gets bad intel. He thinks it's zone. So he sits with the corner on his back. And Zach's like, hey, dude, I'm trusting you here. Okay.
Yeah.
If you sit down, that tells me I got to throw this ball right here. So that's like one of those things like, all right, the more time you spend in the offense, that'll probably go away.
Yeah.
At least you'd hope. That's a pretty easy fix. The interception on, that kind of grazed ball through Corey Davis's hands, like the process was good. The clear out route took a minute. So Zach waits. I'm going to wait until that corner route gets out of the way, and then I'll get to the over route. And as soon as the corner clears, boom, here comes the over route. The only issue with that is, again, a rookie issue throughout college. You can keep rolling to your right and just fire the ball. And 9 times out of 10, you're probably fine. Yep. In the NFL, that little tail on the ball as you're rolling to your right, when it starts to rise and go away from the receiver, that's what happens, because your receiver, who's been in the pros for a while, is expecting the ball to be in a certain spot. So now that little graze through his hands turns into an interception. And I think that from there, you could kind of see that really rattled his process mentally, because the third pick, which is on a snag concept, every quarterback's run snags since they were in high school. It's easy. You can see it in 7-on-7 every day. You can go to a high school and see it in 7-on-7. And you can see, again, I think a pretty decent process. Hey, it's man. I'm going to check the flat route. Okay, they got the flat route covered, so I'm just going to throw the corner, because, again, that's all you've been trained to do when you see man against this concept. And you can kind of see it because there's no velocity on the ball, that as he throws it, he's like, oh, shit, they covered it. This was wrong. Like, it's me and Madden. Like, I hit the button and I see that it's actually covered. So now it's a touch pass instead of a bullet. I'm like, no. Like, if I take my finger off the button, it's going to take my throwback. Like, you can kind of see that process with it kind of hanging in the air. And then the fourth one, which is obviously the worst one, I think that was very clearly like, I just don't even really know what I'm looking at right now. Like, they've been showing me cover one. They show me cover one all game. And now all of a sudden it's drop 8 too deep. Like, and we're trying to run this cell concept. Yeah. Nobody told me that you can do this in the NFL. I thought I left this behind at BYU, And
that was this worked against New Mexico.
Right, exactly. Yes, that was very much fuck it. I'm gonna throw this ball somewhere between the clear out and the sail route, and one of you guys got to go be a pro and make this play for me. Like, that was very much I don't even know what I'm looking at right now. I'm just gonna put it up, So I think that a lot of this stuff will be cleaned up by him continuing to work on his feet, his hips, getting more balanced on his throws, and then that obviously is going to help when you talk about like working through the progression, getting your body physically in positions to work through the progression so you can get to the throws you need to get to as they come open.
Yep.
And I thought, one of the things why he looked kind of so good in the preseason was exactly what both of you guys are talking about, where it's like you knew what you were getting. And he didn't have to, it was just like everything was like, oh yeah, this is what I saw for the past 3 days in practice. And then bang, 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 let me hit the dig to Corey Davis. Like, or like the dagger at the Corey Davis. And it's like, now, hey man, here comes the real football and things are changing and it's tough. It's tough sport to play.
It really is.
Okay, before we get on to our next topic, I just want to remind you guys that the Too High podcast is sponsored by Western and Southern Financial Group. While you focus on your roster moves, Western and Southern helps you advance your money moves. Buying your first home, planning to start a family, wondering how to make your money grow. Western and Southern's playbook of life insurance, investment, and retirement solutions helps you rest assured on game day. Team up to identify your needs and address your goals with a game plan built just for you. Get started at westernsouthern.com/PFF. Okay, wanted to talk about the Rams offense because all I want to do is talk about the Rams offense. And me and Deontay spoke for lengths a long time about it on the Tuesday podcast, but we have you on. We want to know your thoughts. What's going on with the Stafford-McVay connection?
It's the theme of my whole appearance today is, hey, hitting home runs when there's doubles. That's what Stafford brings. Not even just the big shot plays that we've talked about, against the Bears and everything like that. He had one against the Bears. It was a 3rd and long, and on the play, it was a cross-field progression. He hits the backside dig on it, and on it,
that's the exact play I referenced on the Tuesday show.
Really, and that
exact play.
That is the difference between Matthew Stafford and 90% of the quarterbacks. I'll say or the tier of Stafford's in.
Right,
is he got to the dig and got the first down, where I would say every other quarterback would stay on that side of the field and checked it down. It would have been a 6-yard gain. And we would talk about, oh, good job, Trevor Lawrence, everything we want Trevor Lawrence to do. Stafford, though, this was actually a fine throw. It wasn't like what we're talking about with Trevor squeezing it in tight windows. It was like, no, he beat the safety, rips this dig. And it's like, that's the difference of Matthew Stafford, is taking that and getting a 15-yard gain when most other quarterbacks would have taken the 5-yard gain. And it's just one play. But those add up over a game, over a series, over a freaking season. And that's the Mahomes effect. Like Mahomes, he does the flashy throws, but what Mahomes does is also gets you 15 yards when everyone else gets 2, gets you a touchdown when everyone else gets a first down. It's like, that's what Mahomes does, just over and over and over. But with that Rams offense, it's a lot of the same. But the fact that they're getting to the runs from the gun and tying it in, that's really intriguing. Seth and I have talked about this a little bit in our chat. I think that's probably the most interesting tweak I've seen so far. And what's so funny is, exciting as Stafford is and all that, is actually what they're kind of tying everything else in. And they're just running inside zone out of a 3-by-1, nothing crazy, but with a bubble. They abused it against the Bears. But then they're getting into, and I'm becoming a meme of myself referring to this play, but getting to stuff like the wind-back play. And they last 2 years, this is the big difference. Last 2 years, they did this under center. This last 2 weeks, they did it from the gun. And they attached it and they made the formation look more like their gun formations. And I just think that's the most obvious tweak of having Stafford in there. And really just the passing concepts were the same. It's stick, nod.
Yeah, they're not doing it's the McVay offense.
Crazy.
But it's just run at the execution
higher level,
so much better.
Have you guys seen Mad Max Fury Road? I don't know if you guys, but there's a scene in it where they're like, hey, we need more like the Proud Boy, or not Proud Boy, whatever the guys are, Lost Boys, whatever they're called. And he's on the car and he just starts spitting gas into the engine. He's spitting gas. That's what Stafford is, not a Proud Boy. I can't remember the name. I've seen that movie 100 times, but I can't remember what they're called. But anyways, him spitting the gas into the engine and just also the car just zooming forward. That's what Stafford is for this offense. It's like last year we saw what this offense is maxed out with no real help coming along with Goff. And so the passing game was mid, and then the run game was, top 10-ish, 8, 9, 10-ish. Fine. When you have a world-class defense, that's fine to win that way. When you expect the defense to regress, which they have, the offense needs to take a step forward. And that's what Stafford just doing the same shit they're doing, just with a couple tweaks. Stafford's going to get there. And it's pretty cool to watch.
Two things. War Boys.
War Boys.
I looked it up, so I can't really
Thank
take
you.
claim for that. The other thing is, and me and Deontay said this on Tuesday, was when you look at the interception against the Colts, when he just overthrows, you got that same, it's kind of like the same, it might have been, now that I'm thinking about it, it might be the same concept that you're just talking about on the 3rd and 10 against the Bears, where he's waiting and he hits Woods on the deep end. With this time, I think it's Cup on the deep end, and he overthrows him, and it's a tight window, hell of a tight window throw. He overthrows him, gets picked. And what we both of us said was, that's like, we're remember, like, this is 3rd contract Stafford. This isn't a guy like, we know who Stafford is at this point.
Yeah.
So it's like the question is, are we going to get games where that doesn't just happen once, but it happens 3 times? Like, do you see that? Like, I mean, we don't know. I mean, you're projecting the future, but like, is that something that you're worried about a bit?
Yeah, a little, because sometimes Stafford can have that where it's, you appreciate that kind of gunslinger in him. And trust me, their 2-minute operation is going to be so much better than it was the last 3 seasons with Goff. It's just by default, just having Stafford against basic coverages, he's going to whip that bitch in there all the time. But that is the negative of Stafford, is he can go on a heat check and not come off of it. Like, he trusts his arm for better or for worse. And yeah, of course, there's going to be a game at some point this year where he throws like back-to-back picks and they're out of the game and they go down 2 scores and that's the game. It's going to happen. That is what you live with Stafford. What were you saying?
Well, I was just saying, but the big difference is there have been games like that where Jared Goff was the quarterback and it's over. The game is over at that time.
Yeah.
First quarters, midway through 2nd quarter, the game is over. And we've seen these games where I think Goff has, over the past, like, since his time in with McVay, I think there's a game where he has like 70 dropbacks. And guess what? They lost that game.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So like, this is really one of the issues, is like when that happens, Stafford will probably be able to figure it out, and you can come back, unlike what you did with Goff. Okay, before we get on to the last 2 topics we want to hit on, one of our new sponsors for the Too High podcast is, of course, Home Field Apparel. Home Field Apparel is a premium collegiate clothing brand out of Indianapolis, incredibly comfortable, officially licensed apparel with vintage college designs. Home Field is in the middle of Big New Saturday Season 2, where they launch a new school collection every Saturday at noon Eastern for 16 straight weeks. So they just did Georgia, North Carolina, Florida. Today they did a very mini St. Louis Billikens drop today. And then, of course, this weekend is USC. Just for Deontay, go to homefieldapparel.com. Use promo code PFF to get 15% off your first purchase. Again, that's homefieldapparel.com. Promo code PFF to get 15% off your first purchase. Okay, last 2 things we want to talk about. Let's start with Carolina's defense that has been very, very good. Of course, I haven't really played against an offensive line worth anything. I'm a Carolina hater, so that's my caveat here. But you two both noticed something that they were doing on defense, and Deontay, you are writing about it. Of course, you can go on PFF.com and find me and Deontay's writing. Sign up for Edge and sign up for PFF Elite for all your fantasy stuff. Deontay, what did you see, and what did both of you see from the Panthers defense?
Well, I think I'll start first. The first thing kind of goes back to what we talked about on Monday, or on the episode that came out on Tuesday, which is like all the different worlds that the Saints have to live in right now because they don't have wide receivers that can separate. So because it's necessary for them to get Alvin Kamara out in the route, there's really only so many things that they can do from a protection perspective. So the first thing is what we talked about on Tuesday, which was them bringing in 11 personnel, but it's special 11 because it's a 6th offensive lineman as well as a tight end. So they can run some form of a 6-man protection and get Kamara out. So, right, that's like the absolute safest thing that they can do. And that's usually when they're trying to push the ball down the field a little bit more. Then they have like their regular 11 stuff. And this is where they started bumping into problems against Phil Snow and the Panthers. So Phil Snow, being a smart defensive coordinator, knows, hey, their best receiving threat is the guy in the backfield. They're not going to waste him in the protection. So they started getting into these double mug looks, and the issue becomes because now all of these offenses are running with these tight splits. Now you can start messing with the safety rotation in a way that makes it really difficult for you to work your protection properly. So they were able to just scheme up a bunch of unblocked pressure without it coming at the cost of having Alvin Kamara out in the flat or on a check down uncovered. Knowing that, hey, if we show pressure a certain way and we bring the safety down, they're probably gonna slide the center to the strong side of the formation away from where they're releasing Kamara, and those two linemen got to take the two most dangerous. Well, how the hell do you identify who the two most dangerous are if there's a guy inside and outside of you as the guard and the tackle? They have four guys walked up on the weak side edge, knowing that that's where they're trying to manipulate the protection anyways. And you could see it kind of throughout the game. So the first clip, they try it. Jameis avoids the pressure and tries to dump it off to Kamara, and it ends up becoming like a 3rd and short, or it might have been an incomplete. But what you see in Teron Armstead is he's working like, okay, most dangerous. Step to the inside guy. I think the guard's going to help me there, so I'm going to come back to the edge. Oh, shit, the guard didn't help me. Now we got B-gap pressure. So you kind of log that. You kind of log that in your head, and then they come back to that same look in the 4th quarter. And then you see Armstead saying, I saw this before. I'm going to take the B-gap pressure. You're not going to get me twice. He does that, but they cover the pass well because they're only bringing 3. So now you've got unblocked edge pressure. Jameis is looking through his progression, nothing there, takes the sack. And then you have what they did to end the first half in that 2-minute drill where they ran the same pressure track 3 times in a row.
Unbelievable.
So they bring 4 from a side, right? So the idea is you've got one guy in the A gap, one guy in the B gap, one guy in the C, and one guy off the edge. And what you're doing with the A gap pressure is he presses through the A gap he's lined up in into the opposite A. So he's trying to take, if the center turns to him, he's going to take the center with him, and everybody else is slanting inside. So you're almost guaranteeing that you're going to get a free rusher if you release the back. The Saints are trying to protect on it, so they leave Kamara in. But the one thing I noticed that I really liked from Jeremy Chin, who was a guy mugged up in the A-gap, was the second he saw Kamara step to him, he was like, I know what to do. Instead of pressing into the opposite A, I'm just going to missile into Kamara. So that way, if Jameis tries to step opposite of where Chin is going, he's going to run himself into unblocked pressure off the edge. I'm going to occupy the back. So now you get this edge rusher coming free. Again, Kamara sees that, and you log it, right? You log that rep in your head. Hey, the unblocked edge pressure came. So instead of going through my true scan, A gap to the edge, if I see this look and they bring all 4, I'm just going to go to the edge because I know that's where we're vulnerable. Again, now that leaves Chin unblocked, and now you get pressure on Winston, and he throws that into half interception. So it was just like a really interesting chess match. You know, Nate, I know that you spend a lot of time on social media kind of talking to people about the way that the progression, not that the protection, not only how it functions, but why it matters as much as it does for a quarterback. So that was the one thing that stood out to me that I was kind of blown away by, that they were able to get unblocked pressure that damn easily.
Nate, you do spend a lot of time on social media.
That's great. It's my full-time job now. It's awesome. Those that one where I think Winston threw the pick on was freaking evil because they held it, and that's where the condensed splits comes in. Is you if you're in condensed splits, those safeties can tie in. The linebackers don't have to be widened out. Like everything's in there. You can hold those looks a lot longer. They did a really, really good job of holding the look. The one I want to talk about is we would say that a defense is blitzing the back. Because in 6-man protection, you're building 3-man sides on each side, 3 offensive linemen, 2 offensive linemen, the running back. And you're blitzing the back, you're bringing 4 against your 3. And you're really putting it on the back and putting it on the line to be right, especially the center. And with the one right before the half, one of the ones right before the half, they held the look real long. So they had 2 DBs over 2 eligible receiver side to the boundary side where the blitz came. To me as a quarterback, I would look at that and go, oh, okay, this guy has to drop out. Oh, I'm sorry. There's 3 over there. There's a receiver, a tight end, and the running back. Kamara was off shifted to the right. They had 3 defenders. So they had 3-4-3, including the guy in the A gap. So it was like, in my head, I'd be like, that guy in the A gap is covering the back. I do not have to worry about all this shit going on. Like if one guy at the safety counts, there's no way they bring in like yada, yada, yada. The math in my head checked out. What the center has to do in that, and this is really teaching point, especially double A gap looks, because like the point you bring where guys are picking the center or crossing the center's face or doing anything like that is get back is you're not sliding and turning your shoulders. It's just get back. It's like, yeah, I'm going to aim left, but if I get back, they'll fall into me. And when they fall into me, then, okay, we can protect them. Rodney Hudson is one of the best at it. And he's brought it to the Cardinals now, which has helped them out a lot, even though they do a whole lot of bullshit. But
it protects the center from having to guess, right? Now you don't have to guess. Even if you're wrong, you can you can buy yourself that extra beat saying, okay, I'm looking this way, but I'm losing ground. So now this guy who's coming from the opposite in my blind side, like I can at least give some kind of half body presence, right? I can help my guard out a second.
Even if that one he got Chin and Chin comes in, even if it's like not a good angle, at least I can shove him and kind of like wad it up, and Winston moves, and we're going downfield anyway. So Winston has that extra half second to move in the pocket and get the ball off. And when they blitz it back on that in a 6-man protection or 5-man protection, even 7-man, is the 3-man, 4-man slide is going to work away from the backside by standard rule unless you change it. So the defense knows that. They go, okay, by the way, having Shaq Thompson as one of these A-gap guys, by the way, unlocks everything.
Yeah,
he's been awesome.
He has been awesome. He has been awesome. He's been one of the best players in the league. Dead serious, best defensive players in the league. He has been in that A gap, and he's flying out and covering dicks, and he's flying out and covering these deep routes. And it's like having a guy that can do that, like Urlacher and Lance Briggs were able to do for years and years and years. He's not that same type of player. They're built different, but that ability to do the same thing, it messes with offenses so much. But going back to the point, the Saints center Ruiz, he knows he has to. He's
a young center, like you talk about Rodney Hudson.
Yes.
Ruiz obviously played guard last year. He played center at Michigan, but he played guard last year, and now he's having to take over from Nick Easton. From Eric McCoy. I keep doing that every podcast. I'm going to do that.
That's
from Eric McCoy. So yeah. Anyways,
when Marquise Colson was out there, But yeah, exactly. They're taking advantage of him going by his standard rules. See, he wasn't expecting this year to play center. We got McCoy right here. McCoy is might be a Pro Bowl center. And so he's not worried about it. He's like, hey, I did my job. I'm sliding left. I got Shaq Thompson right here, but Shaq dropped out and covered a tight end on the opposite side. So they bring in, they're blitzing forward to the backside. And like you said, Kamara has to pick. Yeah, you would hope he goes inside out, but like you said, it's the human element. Right before they changed it up, they changed the look up on him. It's so hard to get that right every single time, especially with a defense that doesn't just bring one look out of it. When they have a whole package of pressures. They fooled Jameis later when they dropped everybody out.
Yes.
They had Shaq kind of like shadow in the back, and then he dropped out, but then that was it. And Jameis got fooled. He ended up tucking and running. And but that's what it does. It makes the quarterbacks go. Just that they have to glance. Quarterbacks want to keep their eyes downfield. He catches a snap. He has to glance. He has to go. Is everything okay? Okay. Now I can drop back, because if that's in the back of your mind, it's hard to operate fast. But it's great on the Panthers. I want to see if they can continue this, because now it's on film. Now offensive game plans are going to package it and go, hey, when they do this, they're blitzing the backside, so full slide it, or I want to see what the next step is, because that's the fun chess match for this type of stuff.
Well, excitingly for Panthers fans, they're playing Houston on Thursday, and then they could be 3-0.
Sam Darnold, they could legitimately be 3-0.
The other thing I'll say about the Panthers that is very cool, you talk about Shaq Thompson before playing at a high level. Their 2 inside linebackers were 7 and 4. Sorry, what is he? He was 9? No, he was 7. Yeah, we're 7.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's kind of cool as fuck.
Yeah. The aesthetic is definitely elite. It's definitely an elite aesthetic.
That is unbelievable.
Shaq Thompson got single digits again, and all of a sudden he just got unlocked. He was like, oh, that's right, I'm fast.
And you have J.C. Horn wearing 8 on the outside. Like, they are building the coolest looking defense, at least. Yep. I don't know if it'll, the play on the field will sustain, but like the coolest looking defense. Okay, last thing.
Brian Burns has got the Spider-Man celebration down. I know. So it's like they're acting like they're a good defense, at least. They have the persona so far. So let's see if they continue it.
Okay, so last thing, and Deontay, you are writing about this, but so people can go on the website, again, pff.com, and find it. But Deontay, you wanted to talk about a little bit about the Titans' 12 personnel.
Yes, this is super into the weeds, but I did find it interesting. This is definitely in the weeds. So, when we talk about, when people talk about like leaving this offseason and what the differences are going to be for Tennessee, losing Jonnu Smith, right? I think a lot of people kind of talk about,
yeah, everyone was talking about that, except just literally our podcast and Nate's podcast.
Yeah. I told you I exist in the chat almost exclusively. So whatever we see is important is the only thing that's important to me. But when you talk about like, okay, Jonnu Smith and Corey Davis are gone, you add Julio Jones. Well, what's really going to be lost within the offense? And I do think, if you watch them, at least from the past week, you probably think like, oh, this is about the same, right? It's downhill runs. It's play action throws. That's all that they've been doing when they've been successful. That's all I'm seeing. But the thing that I'm finding really interesting now is, and this is something that I wrote about right before the season, is how teams are using 12 personnel, because it really matters when you start talking about tying the downhill run game into the play action game. So what they were under Arthur Smith when they had Jonnu Smith was they'd get into 12 personnel in terms of body types, but they like to use it to create these two-back sets. Right. And in coaching terms, you'll hear a lot of defensive coaches say it's 12 make 21 or 12 make 11, meaning the bodies are X, but they're using them in Y fashion, right? Because that changes the way you think about defending whatever offense that you're seeing. So for the last 3 years, when they had Smith, when this offense really kind of grew into what it's been, they've used these 12 personnel bodies to create 2X sets more than anybody in the league. And that was interesting to me when I looked at their like run concept frequency. It was to run outside zone, obviously makes a lot of sense given who was calling the plays there. But then their second concept was like split zone, again, makes a lot of sense. And then you have duo. So what you have is these counter punches for what you want to do in the run game. We can hit you on the edge, then we can run split zone. So now if you're starting to flow too hard, you got to honor this cutback. And now when we've got you playing flat-footed, we're going to run duo at you with the biggest running back that exists on the planet, right? And the second that your running back goes to fit this A-gap, now I'm taking this 260-pound ass, and he's going to go run down your corner, and you have a great time with that. So what that continues to do is move defensive players closer to the line of scrimmage. And now you've got your Corey Davis on those drift routes. Now you've got your AJ Brown on those drift routes. You've got those overs. You've got Jonnu Smith on Y leak, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So all of these explosives are able to come out of that. Now that they don't have a true inline, real letter Y tight end, the way that we think about it conventionally, they're basically just using their tight ends as sixth and seventh offensive linemen, which works, on a certain level. At least it worked last week against Seattle, right? What they were doing is putting both tight ends on the same side. You've talked about it, right? The hip slot formation,
so
where you get both guys
I'm so proud of you right now. I'm so proud of you.
You're right next to each other. And then if you want to keep that wide receiver on that tight end wing side, now if they roll that safety down as run support, you short motion that X receiver, that Z receiver in, and now you've got a 5-man surface to the strength. I don't know if there's not really a defense that exists that's there to account for 5 new gaps, or 3 new gaps, outside of the offensive tackle. So when you're running your duos in your outside zone, you're reinforcing the edge. We've talked about, Seth, what run support means. When I talk about hard jointing the box, right? You're setting the edge multiple times is the idea. You've got your defensive end, then you've got whatever that down safety or that Sam backer right outside of him. So you're reinforcing the edge. Well, that eliminates the idea of that. So you're able to get the edge a little bit easier. And now when you run duo, you're really getting this ridiculous wash down the line of scrimmage. And that's what they were able to hurt Seattle with. My concern, though, is because they don't have a true tight end going forward, it's going to be harder to counterpunch off of outside zone, because what teams I think are going to start doing is just blitzing off the edge all the time. I think everybody's just going to get in the bear, get a wide 9 technique, whether it's a true linebacker or a safety. You're just going to slant everybody one way, and you're coming right off the edge behind it. And all you're really looking for is, hey, you might beat us 3 times or 4 times on it, but we're just trying to get 3 or 4 TFLs. And now if we get you in the 2nd and 12, 2nd and 13, you can't do all that beautiful drift play action passing game. You can't get Julio as open, because now we can play 2 high safeties. So that's going to be kind of the chess match I'm looking for with Todd Downing as an offensive coordinator now going forward.
That was such a good point with the hip slot stuff. Is when you motion, all right, the receiver comes over, and that's where having big receivers helps too, is because you can use these guys actually to block as opposed to
and they have two of like the thickest wide
monster. I know. They went from
league.
Corey Davis and AJ Brown, and they upgraded. So like Corey Davis is no.
Yeah, look at AJ Brown. Let's get a guy that's 2 inches taller and maybe like 15 pounds heavier. Making the other receiver.
I know. Corey Davis is one of the most physical receivers. It's just like, oh no, let's get Julio. But what you're creating with that is such a good point. And it's so fun to hear like your perspective on it, because it's like I have my own way. Like hip slot, you motion the guy over, you're creating a bunch to me. And when you create that bunch,
quarterback.
I know, I really am. I know I have to like put everything in my perspective. So when you create that bunch, though, it's like an unusual bunch in the sense from the defensive perspective. Because what do you guys do? What does defensive guys usually? You get a hip slot over there, or we'll cloud it over here, or we'll, if it's cover 3, we have the corner sitting on the outside. Okay, if I lined up in bunch, middle of the formation, just a nice bunch right there. Okay, defenses have a check. Okay, all right, they're going to put their guys in better spots to like play the run. But now you go to hip slot and you motion the receiver over there. Okay, this is not what we're expecting this kind of formation to get created on us.
Right.
The long touchdown on, I don't know if it was hip slot, but it was a hip formation. And with Henry, where he broke the tackle, it was a wind back, which plays out a little bit like duo. Same thing though. It was a corner on an island tackling from the side on Derrick Henry. That is a win. That is a win. Even if it wasn't Derrick Henry, if it was just a normal, okay, replacement level running back, that is an advantage to the offense. Now we have one of the biggest, most physical running backs ever, and he is getting tackled from the side. Okay, yeah, that's a win. So that's where you're kind of creating the defenses, as you know, defenses will just have this game plan. We're expecting this, we're expecting this. But if you just kind of camouflage what you're getting into while in the same way, it's so funny you say that too, because Jonnu, they would have all the time doing the split zone because he was a good crossing guy. And it works so well when they run the naked game, because now Jonnu is slicing across the formation and then he's in the flat. And it's like, oh man, that opened up all that shit for them. Or they run a screen to him, like, and when you have an explosive, like legit 4 or 5 and change, 4 or 6 flat tight end, it's not a 6-yard gain, 8-yard gain. Those are explosive plays.
Right.
So yeah, they are missing that. Now their explosive plays have to come from the 2 receivers. They just miss. It's just that little. It's funny how like they just have to. Okay, one hole open. So okay, now we gotta. How do we recreate? Remember Moneyball where they're trying to figure out how to replace like Johnny Damon and Giambi's runs and how many runs they created? They're trying to find different ways to create them.
Right. And the idea they ultimately landed on was like, we don't have to replace him with 1 player. Let's replace him with 4 players. We can replace it with 6 players,
Yep.
That's kind of the idea. And to me, so to your point that I was really fascinated by is when you talk about Jonnu Smith as that split zone guy, what that means defensively is I have to play you even. I can't overload to the strength because you actually will run weak. If you can't split me, if you can't split me back in half and make me play both ends of the formation, then I don't have to honor the weak side of the formation. I can just shift I can basically treat it like a new offensive center. Go. Yeah, like I can bump the whole front over, or I can slide all the linebackers over, or we can super rotate the defense now. So that's going to be interesting to me. And what that really says about the rest of the season, the way I think it's going to play out is the only way that you can keep defenses from loading up on you like that is Ryan Tannehill is going to have to be a real quarterback and beat those one-on-ones every single time he sees it. So that way defenses have to honor you in the passing game.
Yeah, they just have to have true drop back options that aren't like, hey, go balls. Defenses will go, hey, I know you have AJ Brown and Julio, but it's like you're not going to get all of them. It's a true, I completely agree. It's got to be a true drop back concepts or play action that's not just drifts, drifts and posts and drifts and quarters. It's got to be. They did have a nice tweak though, the long ball to Julio, because it's their version. They like to do drift and corner, so it's just for Shanahan, it's really easy. He just goes right across. It's real basic. It's real fun. But with Julio, they did a quarter post off of it. And I thought that was pretty sweet. Like I was like, okay, you're a couple of change ups with these guys, but like you said, they have to play. They have to get more tools in their toolbox, I think, to continue. I think every offensive defense is at that point, but especially them if they want to be at that level they were.
I'm watching the run right now. Derrick Henry touchdown. 2 tight ends, hip slot, Y wing. But yeah, so AJ Brown starts on that, so it's trips, and he just short motions in, and then I just want to say, like, I don't have anything to add. This was a great discussion. Like, you guys know so much more about football than me. I'm just gonna add that the way Derrick Henry outruns Quandre Diggs is disgusting. God. Like, you should not be allowed to do that. I'm sorry, you should not be allowed to play in this league.
That man got to do that in high school. That's the part that I always want people to remember. He was this size in high school, okay, and played running back.
My parents were at the game, and they're actually sitting pretty close. Usually my mom, like, over the years, she'd sit kind of mid-level, you know, kind of just where it was, where the family sit. They got good tickets in Seattle, and she's like fourth row, and she just goes, I didn't realize how big Derrick Henry is. And she was like, they had him like split out, and he motioned in or something. He was there in 2 strides. And she was just, I've never really, my mom is just such a, like, she's a coach's wife. She's seen it all. Like, you know, like, she has seen everything. Like, and it's just so funny to hear her, like, actually go, like, holy shit. Like, I've only heard her say that a couple times about players. Russell Wilson was one at Wisconsin, but Derrick Henry is another, like Randy Moss is another. But it's like those times that she actually, like, comments about how impressive somebody is. That's like when you're like, oh wow, that's saying something, because that's what it was. It was like that long touchdown. It was like 2 strides, and the Diggs is like behind him somehow, some way. But it's crazy. We've talked about it before, Deontay. It's like he's a 260-pound finesse back.
Yes, like, this type of human being should not exist. He is not the same as the rest of us.
Nope, it's not. It's not. I know. And then he sits next to a 5'9" corner. It's like, yeah, good luck tackling him.
And the funny thing is, they kind of have, like, the Seahawks kind of get it right. Adams is a little out of control. Kind of gets pushed out of the way by
well, they did what I mentioned that teams would do, right? You blitz the edge, and they tried it. He just happened to got washed down just enough to open up the edge for Henry.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was the Too High podcast. Nate Tice is our guest. Nate, tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, as you say, I am on social media full time. You can find me on Twitter at Nate_Tice. You can also hear me on the Athletic Football Show. I'm on the Sunday night / Monday morning episode, and also the one that comes out Friday mornings, where we'll preview the games for the weekend. Also, I give my gambling picks. You can hear me on Odds Checker with Justice Mosquito, as we have talked about, one of our friends, and give some more gambling picks there. And also you can find my writing at my Substack, The Silent Count, which is silentcount.substack. But yeah, at all those platforms, you can just me talking about how Trevor Lawrence isn't as bad as Seth Galina.
I have to, well, you know, I had my nuclear take, like, after his sophomore season.
Oh yeah.
So I have
you were ready too.
I'm ready. I'm both sidesing it. So we're good. All right.
Plant the seeds on both sides. So whenever one grows to a plant, you go, hey, this is mine.
All right. Nate, thank you for joining us. And to our listeners out there, we will see you next Tuesday morning.